Hello, my friends, and welcome back. When the crisis in Ukraine started, we saw an unprecedented frenzy triggered in Western Europe, mostly Germany, Great Britain, and France. A little bit to a certain extent, Italy, and obviously, I will not include the little dogs that make noise, which is the Baltic states and Poland to this. But mainly these countries, and I'm also including United States, that entered a set of direct actions to punish Russia. I will not discuss the necessarily the moral reasons behind these actions, but their support to provided to Ukraine was, as you know, economic, financial, political, informational, and military aid, and financial aid as well, direct financial aid. And uh, it was as if it was an order. Everything was regimented, and everybody was in a frenzy to show its support of Ukraine against Russia. And we had the Ukraine's president every day, a few times a day actually, showing up in different chancelleries, speaking and requesting weapons support and action, military action to punish and help him against the Russians. A lot of things were said, a lot of things were done. A lot of sanctions were imposed on Russia. I think these sanctions, a lot of them were way ahead of their skis in their deciding all this. It was too fast, too far. But that's my assessment. That's my observation. And obviously, when you make all kind of decisions like this, and you try to avoid being called out by, I don't know, the big boss or the moral judges who are self-appointed moral judges who tell you that if you do business with Russia, you pay for, and it's blood money, blood oil, and you pay for Russia's oil, so therefore you are guilty of the crimes committed in crisis or war or invasion operation, however you want to call it. And all this support and all this chest pounding from these countries obviously will affect their countries, their economies, their standards of living. And it shows. And once it shows, they will start backpedaling little by little. And the last case of this backpedaling is Germany. And Germany now is trying to cool off from the initial frenzy. And there's also internal political struggle between vultures, political actors, who try to, if you didn't go far enough with damaging your country's industry, then you are not supporting Ukraine enough. Now, if you went too far, you went too far, and then you ignored and you neglected your domestic issues. So neither way is good because these vultures, politicians who are like whores, they expose themselves and try to be as appeasing as possible to the eye or to the little fish, to vote for them. So they have to be always looking good, as Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, said that these guys are like a hunchback who always shows his side without a hand, don't hit the hinge on his back. So he's always turning to the sides and angles covering that, showing the good side of their bodies, and making you not see their entire structure, physical structure. So this is the politicians. We have to sell themselves, regardless if it's fair or unfair. They have to just be popular. So we have here an article from Reuters from April 23rd, 2022, and it says, as a German minister, Lindner, uh, he says Germany must support Ukraine without endangering its own security. I bet this statement would have been viewed as a sacrilege about almost 2 months ago, right after the invasion of Ukraine. But now they start showing their head because the population is dissatisfied with where the country is going, probably with high inflation and high prices. So, you can be moral until you're hungry. And when you're hungry, then you have to really show convictions for your um, ideals and values. If you're just the first sign of being hungry, you start, okay, I'm done with all these sanctions. I want this and that. That means you're not really a moral person. You're just a show off. So it says here that Germany must do everything in its power. Listen to the verbiage here. Germany must do everything in its power to help Ukraine win the war against Russia, but without endangering its own security and NATO's defense capability, Finance Minister Christian Lindner said on Saturday. Now, must do everything in its power to help Ukraine win the war. What do you mean win the war? How do you see Ukraine winning the war? Do you think that is this winning the war? Ukraine would defeat Russia and push them outside of their territory and then stop at the border and keep the Russians out. If that's the goal that you think you can help Ukraine reach that point, I think that's very, very, very unlikely. It doesn't mean you should not try, but then, of course, without endangering your own security. So your security means what? Don't be too and poke too much the Russian bear, because they might send you some raindrops in your direction, among others. And then own security and NATO defense capability. That means we need to also buy weaponry from United States, weapons, so we keep the big guy happy over there. This kind of talk wouldn't have been accepted. Everything would have been accepted except endangering your own security. There would not be a case because, Russians are weak and we don't need that. What security? We're on the side of the good and there will be no consequences. We must do everything we need in our power. We must do everything in our power to help Ukraine win, but the limit of the ethical responsibility is endangering our own security and endangering the defense capability of NATO territory. So NATO territory, interesting words used over there. And then, but the limit of the ethical responsibility. So we should be ethical until it hurts us. Once it hurts us, we should not be ethical. So we go as far as it a little bit where, remember I always used to say that unfortunately the Western societies are nowadays are very easy to be pushed back, because most of the people in these societies are like children. I'll say it in a way that they are brats. They are how do you call that? Like a child that is can accept any kind of pain. Is a big talk, but no pain. Once the pain starts, one's out, right there, bails out. That's not how the Second World War was fought or won, or the First World War. If you had the same attitude as nowadays, in those times, Germany would have been right now all over. And not only Germany, but Soviet Union as well, because they were not the good guys either. So let's put it that way. Yes, it tells you right here the ethical responsibility. Well, is you are responsible as ethical you are. You don't have any responsibility. Now you assign responsibility, ethical responsibility to yourself. What the other ones think about you in this case doesn't really matter. It matters how you hold yourself, to what standards you hold yourself to. Now, if you think you're a little bit ethical, that's what you are. But if you think you're really, really ethical, then you have to sacrifice yourself. You just can't see that you're a defendant of love and truth and equality. But once that something in this fight or in the maintaining of these values hurt you, start crying and you say, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm going home and cry a little bit now. Um, and says here this guy, but what is possible we must undertaken pragmatically and quickly together with our European partners. So they talk about pragmatism, efficiency. Is that what they talk about? So yeah, they're backpedaling. They're coming to their senses that putting an embargo on resources from Russia and not only will hurt themselves in the first place. Yeah, you can show you're a great guy, but at the end you either go all the way or you gotta back off at one point. Maybe no. It says Ukraine needs military support in order to be victorious. It also needs heavy weapons. This guy said, okay. Well, you know that once you provide heavy weapons to Russia's enemy, you are also Russia's enemy. So don't expect Russia to think the way you want them to think. They will think this way. You help them to kill my man and push me back, you are my enemy. And I'm going to go all the way probably. I don't know what all the way could mean here, but as of now, what I saw, Russia reacted to the sanctions, reacted to what the Western countries done. Uh, no, their diplomats were kicked out. They kicked out those countries' diplomats. They placed sanctions on Russia. Russia placed sanctions on them. So they adjusted to whatever the other guys were doing. I haven't seen the Russians attacking the Westerns in political or financial, economic way, and they could. They could have done everything they did in response. They could have initiated. Would have hurt them, which obviously does hurt them right now, but it would have hurt the other ones too. But they always reacted. They let everything at the latitude of the Western guys to start. They did this way. Russia matched that. And if I get hurt, you're gonna get hurt. So it's a mutual destruction. And now these guys are obviously is just attacking Scholz. Olaf Scholz is a responsible leader who weighs things up carefully and makes decisions on this basis. Okay, but then before that, he's just talking about Scholz not um, Germany failed to send heavy weaponry to Ukraine, so therefore, we have to avoid destruction or direct contact or confrontation with Russia. Um, it's this time right now. I think when many countries, like I heard Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, saying that, well, I don't know if it's good what we do, but we're gonna support. But I think they might be losing. But in case they lose, so they have now. It's a little bit of. They try to convince themselves that maybe um, they went too much in it, and now they can't pedal back. It's like you jump in a as that moving sands, and you jumped in and you can't, you're just sinking, and now you say, oh, I think that was a bad move. It's too late because you're sinking, the whole just keeps going down. You can't get out anymore, and you can't even stop it. You don't have to move anymore, at least to stop it. But getting out, I don't know how they're going to get out of that. And the situation is as it is, and I'm not going to discuss the reasons how we got here. I spoke about this in previous videos. I'm just saying that the business interests and the population will push back on this clique of politicians who make decisions according to their own little stratified air they live in, and their visions of this world that sometimes do not is not similar to ours, doesn't coincide with our view of how I would like to live my life, or if I would like to have a lower standard of living for Ukraine, for instance, or the level I haven't been asked. Maybe I would provide Ukraine with certain things, but not to the extent these guys are doing. And I wasn't asked. But hey, this is the representative democracy for you, mass democracy for that matter. That means every biped, even a goose who's still a biped, you know what I mean, is able to participate and, you know what I mean, cast a vote and nullify other people's votes by sometimes not even knowing what the hell they're talking about or what the hell is going on. Well, you know what I mean. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. See you in a moment.